folks. This video is going to be called Paving 101, what you absolutely do not want to do, how to avoid the pitfalls of hiring a supposedly professional contractor that turns out to be a sham, and what you could possibly do about it. So with that said, let me introduce myself. Here I am. I'm Joseph, and my glass is ready. Hey, I'm Joseph, and today is April 28th. It's 11:30 in the morning, and I'm going to take you through, hopefully in about 15 minutes, of what hopefully none of you would ever have to go through in getting a job done for your home. So, without further ado, let me start. Just give you, our garbage man just came. Got a nice little neighborhood here, as you can see. Quick pan around. That's Shady Grove Lane. See how nice and shady it is? Kind of lives up to its name. Bought the house a year and a half ago, and there it is again, the house that we're talking about. And okay, let's start out by this. First off, you see how the two posts here are precariously placed, showing a lack of any kind of engineering integrity. Of course, from a guy with 38 years in business, that's what you would expect. Wrong. Okay, let's go over here. This was what was there. Notice it's in pieces, right? It's in pieces. I just pieced it together on the ground for the demonstration. Should not have been in pieces. Quickly, James, when you take this off of there, you simply have to remove the bottom, pull it out, right? Because it's got to be put back in, because I told them in 2 years we're going to be enclosing this, but could be up there for 2 years, as much as 2 years, possibly next year. So take it out really carefully, because we're going up about 8 inches, about 4 inches in this spot, 8 to 12 inches in the rest. And I said, so these posts are going to have to be shortened anywhere from 4 to 8 inches, depending, which means you'd only have to take off this board, and that's it. And then make your cuts, cross, put this board back in there, and then also, if you see, you have these metal clips, if you're not familiar with that. Got those metal braces. Well, his idea of putting this back, why I had him thrown off my property, was, see how the pavers are now? We'll get to that, how badly they are. Well, he was just simply going to take, not even put these two posts, the middle point. He said, you don't need to do that. Just put the two posts back. He said, I'll just slip them in place. I mean, what do you mean to slip them in place? On top of the pavers. On top of the pavers, James, but they're sitting on sand. Yeah, but that's no problem. You don't have to worry about that. Of course, that's totally wrong. Totally bogus. That's what those clips are for. They're screwed into the concrete with about a 3-inch screw, 3 of them, and you set them in there. And of course, you put these in with little L brackets on the top to hold them in place for, lateral forces. Of course, professional building contractor, he's not going to understand lateral forces. Well, there you go. He's not professional. Notice that this one was nice and clean, and this one is all goobered up and chipped up, and the paint's ripped off it. That's because, and I'll get to the story, in his infinite wisdom, in his lack of planning and knowledge, he used this as part of the frame for framing in the pour for the concrete. All right, let's get back to this. Now, it's going to be maybe a little hard to see, but yeah, I think you can. I affectionately call this, meaning this, the ocean in motion. Now, you see how it goes up and down. I'll get a little closer in here to get it, but you can kind of see where it dips in there, goes up, and up. That's why I call it the ocean in motion. It's got that nice little wave effect. Undulating, serpentine, kind of like organic. Yeah, organic. However, that's exactly what you don't want to do if you're laying pavers. You want this flat. Professional, the only thing that I like about it is, see how he's got the curves? We talked about that. He did get the curve there. Okay, a professional does, he lays maybe 3 or 4 lines this way, and probably 6 or 7 this way, gets his form all level, puts a skeet board in the back. I used to do this when I was a kid, 16, 17 years old. Helped Frank Bianco back in Massachusetts. At any rate, and I said that, so I said, that's what I know. Well, the morning of the pour, he calls me, well, when he was going to have this poured, he calls me and says, Joseph, it's 10:30, he's there. I don't think I'm going to show up because it's going to rain, and I don't know. If you want me to show up, I'll show up, but if it was me, I wouldn't do it. And I said, I looked in the sky, I was driving over the Lowe's, and I said, yeah, I think you're right, James, let's call it off till tomorrow. Mind you, it's 10:30 in the morning, okay? 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I come back, and I see Madman Beck and his cohort Rich out here working feverishly with this rickety old little part. It only had it framed from about here to there. All that didn't exist down the back there. Did not exist. And I'm looking at him saying, what are you doing? I thought you weren't going to show up till tomorrow. He said, I decided to go ahead and pour today. I said, today? I said, look at the sky. It's ready to rain. Well, no. He says, this is 2 o'clock. Truck's showing up at 2:30. I said, you got to be shitting me, James. You don't have this set up. How are you going to do this? Joseph, listen, settle down. I've been in business 38 years, worked with my grandfather since I was 13. I'm the best there is. There's nobody in Florida that can pour better than me. Good, okay. Truncate this. The truck arrives, he's not finished. I'm embarrassed. That's why I had to use that post for that piece there. That's why it's all goobered up. All this dirt that you see and gravel, most of it was pushed up against it because that's not how a professional does it. We did it. There were no lines laid, and there was none of that, as I explained previously. And I said, how can you do that without that? He says, listen, the other guys, they need that, but I'm a pro. I know what I'm doing. Just watch. At that point, got a truck here with supposedly 800 yards, $800 worth of concrete at 5 yards. Let me get to that. All said and done, like a madman, he's standing in there. Stuff is pouring in. Of course, it's all over the house. As I'll move in, we'll start looking at this a little closer so you can actually see some of the excellent workmanship that I'm talking about. Get up nice and close here. And you can see how it's not even close to being level. It's like that. Well, he's standing there at this point. He's standing there at this point, and what he's doing is he's up ankle deep in mud, or cement, with a 6-foot piece of 2x4 in his hand, skeeting it by hand. I gotta admit, not so bad. If you were doing a really poor amateur job, didn't care if it was level or not, and just needed something in place to cover the dirt, would have sufficed. That's not the case here. We're putting pavers down. That's why I'll show you how poorly they are. Of course, these are first-class pavers. That's what he told me. He went to the yard, spent 2 hours searching these out for me, going through pallet after pallet to get me the best, because he only does Class A work the best. Well, you can look down there. You can actually see it dive. Great. The 2 other contractor companies I had here the other day explained to me how it's done, and done properly. You do the outside edge, making all your cuts. By the way, you should only be able to get a matchbook cover in between each of those cracks. We'll go into that in just a few minutes. So he gets this whole thing done miraculously. I was amazed that he did do that. He poured it all in 25 minutes. And he gets back and says to himself, see, there's no other guy in Florida that could ever do that. Just me alone. Normally it would take 3 other guys with one guy, and it would take them at least an hour or so to do it. Well, the difference is they would have done it right, not half-assed like he did it. Excuse me, not incorrectly like he did it. James takes offense when I get, a little derogatory, so I'll be real careful not to. He's a little sensitive that way, Vern is. Okay? All right, good. Okay, so if we're looking down here, and we can kind of see those little bumps, and I'll walk into them. The other thing why you want this flat is so you don't have these lips. And of course, I asked him about that, and he said, yeah, I'll take that out. Of course, he didn't. He left it. And by the way, you see the sand here? This whole thing was covered with sand because according to James V. Beck, you got to leave the sand on for 3 days. It kind of works its way in. Well, you folks, and probably most of you already are laughing at this point. Every contractor, each contractor I talk to, you take it off as you go. Once you brush it into the cracks, it's there. You know how you need to do it. Of course, his idea was, oh, here, look. And we have a preponderance of stepped up joints. You can actually see them. I go along, walk it down, not to mention the slope. You can actually see how it dips in here, goes up and dips down. And it actually rolls this way too. I mean, he's captured it really well. It's very water, very fluid. Very fluid. If you're looking for that, you're some kind of artist. Look at this. Okay? Now, you got the idea. Now we're going to move without any more on this and then the levelness. Let's just move on to this. Okay? First things first. These pavers here, I dug these up a few minutes ago, were supposedly locked in. They're not. They're on 2 to 3 inches of sand, which they shouldn't be. Basically, he should have poured the concrete here. Why didn't he do that? Well, he bid the job, obviously bid it wrong, knew that. And what did he do? Well, sand's cheaper than concrete, folks. Well, according to the other guys, which I believe, they should have had it figured out so these blocks laid in here just, you know, basically just came above it, just barely above it, not much, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, slightly tapered back into the wall. Okay, follow me? Yep, I think you all are. And then no more than this much, 1/4 inch of sand, maybe the most, 1/4 inch, and less mostly. And then as you do it, these are all mortared in place with Versabond gray. Both contractors agree with the same thing. And after it's done, you lay these in and you make your cuts against the wall. And then they're laid in. Of course, his idea was just to lay whole pieces against the wall, work his way out, and then he was running out of time. So as you can see, there's no lock-in, but yet he tells me this is going to last. Yeah, right, it's going to last. Okay. Now looking over here, which I just broke off from, you can see this here, that's finished. That's finished. I got a bridge for sale for you. It's up in Brooklyn, it connects New York to New Jersey. You're going to make a fortune. Okay, here we go. See this overlap right here? Notice down there, there is no overlap. Well, I was in there on my little porch working on my laptop, called me out here, and he was all excited, very proud of this he was. He said, "Look, Joseph, look what I did." I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "See how this is now?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "If I had put that, meaning the pavers, right on the edge of the pour, it wouldn't have looked good, so I hung it over." I said, "Okay, so now what are you going to do?" He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, oh, no problem, Joseph." He said, "You," meaning me, can come back and maybe fill this in with cement or something, right? Well, a real contractor would have done that, and then he would have cut pieces that actually fit underneath here. This doesn't quite fit, but you get the idea. If that was, tip it so it fits, okay? Just for demonstration sake. Was cut properly under there, sitting flush, and then you come back with a 4-inch angle grinder, cut that off, and guess what? You have a finished product. Of course, this is James V. Beck, Pro South Construction Inc. idea of finish. Now notice these inconsistently lines. This is no joke. This is finished. I'm not kidding. See some of these? Okay, look at this one. All right, and of course, now mind you, see the sand I'm on? This was all over here because he was telling me don't take this off for 4 days. Now you can see why. That's why I had the sheriff escort him off the property 3 days ago. All right, that. Okay. Now, let me go over here. Quick demonstration. When I was walking, which one was it? Because I put it back on here so I could show you. Which one was it? Huh, that's the one. I stepped on it and popped off. I'm like, well, that shouldn't be. And of course, when the contractors looked at this, they showed me that, see how I just pulled that cement off like that? Little piece. That's because he didn't mix it right. It's mortar. Should have been Versabond, which is an adhesive. This isn't. So it's wrong material for the job. It pops off. And then, of course, he didn't clean it properly, so this, meaning there was sand there, and mortar won't stick to that, nothing will. And that's why that came off. Now, here's a good thing, and this is what makes it good. Watch this. Now, if that was done properly, I could never have done that, could I? Yep. That's how they all are. Crap. Oh, look at this. I didn't even see this before. Hey, this is neat. Oh, that was, okay, let's put that back. So, see just what he did. All right, yep, that's James. His idea. Obviously has no clue. Both of the contractors, when looking at this, I'm going after right here, said to me, obviously this guy's either never done this before or he has no clue. This outside line should have been laid in, and it has to be cut. You have to have a saw, a wet saw, which he didn't have, kept saying he was going to bring it. And all of these joints would have been the size of, about that big. And so all the cuts, everything would have been cut and would have been in there. And then what you do is you go back and you work into the wall, and then you make your cuts against the wall with your pattern, which the pattern is not the pattern I wanted anyway. But that's a whole nother story. So, that's gross. And as you walk along here, to see how good his work is, it's apparent that this is not going to, okay, we got some there. There. This little rock, I used this little rock, tap, tap, and this one came up. That goes to show you the integrity of the lure, or more correctly, the lack of integrity. Totally wrong. Here, I come over to here and I see this. Of course, I didn't see this. And then I did. I said, what's this, James? And he says, well, this is finished work. These little pieces. Oop. Look at this one. I just pulled this up when I pulled on it. Okay? And look at those gaps. When I said those gaps, I said, James, what about those gaps? And he says, when you backfill your, we weren't going to do this before, backfill it with the topsoil up to the bottom of that, and he's there, then you spread the sand back over it, he's there, it's going to stay. Of course, that's utter nonsense. It's not going to stay. And this is just a great example of Mr. Beck's artistry in motion. I mean, can you believe he has the audacity to call these pieces finished? I don't know about you folks, but it looks really bad. And also, when the sprinkler system went out the first time, it did wash that out like it would, because there were not supposed to be gaps like that, obviously. I think y'all can figure that out. Watch. Oop. There you go. Me stomping my old foot. Look at that. Oh, that goes to show you how good it is. Okay. Here we go. Finish work. Not. See that gap? It's ½ inch. Runs out. It's there. I'll get up to the end and show you this. This is not the pattern I want. We'll be getting to that in a little bit. This just, same thing. I went in and tapped that with my fist just before I filmed this. That popped up just to make sure that he's consistent. He's consistently inconsistent, or he's consistent, rather, in doing piss poor work. All right. Getting here, this is some of his idea of finishing the corner. This is a great example of what you really do never, ever, never want to do. The same thing goes here, folks. When you have your outside edge laid, and of course you notice how this is overhanging right here. It overhangs at various degrees up and down, being flush at the end. Should have been flush like that all the way up. Well, that being said, these are all locked in, right? Once these are locked in, the pattern I'll show you after, you work your way into the wall and you make your cut. Well, Mr. Beck, James V. Beck, et al., Pro South Construction, simply his idea was to lay all these against the wall, right? See, the full ones, they're laid against the wall. He figured this out. He's very good at figuring out how to do the least amount of work, quickest. And forget the quality. Quality, who cares? So that's why we have this undulating line up and down. Ideally, in the real world, these would have been cut to fit into the wall, and then when you look at it, the pattern would have been undisturbed, and therefore looked nice. We look here. My first contractor, Victor, looked at this and he says, "Hey Joseph, what's this?" And I said, "Well, I really don't know." He said, "It looks like he left a little springboard, diving board for the frogs or the salamanders or the lizards in the yard." And we cracked up. We had a laugh. Mr. Beck has provided us with many of those. This is incredible. I took the sand off because I wanted you to see this. But, of course, he told me, wait 4 days. Okay, I didn't do that. Maybe after 4 days this wouldn't happen, but I think you and I folks know that's not the case. Enough said. Look at this. That's finished work. Same thing here. Here it's not, I mean, here you go, look. See how it's overhanging here and not down there? That's because it's done entirely wrong. These are all cattywampus. Back here, oh boy, it gets really good here. Let me take note of this door. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But I wanted you to see, first off, what I meant by the pattern. When I first here with him, I said, "See this pattern, James? That's the pattern I want. Can you do?" "Oh yeah, that's simple." "Okay, good." And it is simple. See how it repeats? All right. Quickly do this. This is what he did. He decided to do this pattern because it's simpler yet. Well, okay, even simpler yet can be done and done well, which he obviously didn't do. Look at the workmanship. Look at this. I mean, it's pathetic. The cuts are just pathetic. Look at that. That's finished. Pathetic. 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 And I said to him, well, what do we do with this problem? He says, that's simple. I said, really? He said, yeah. You just push the gravel up, right up to the edge of it, and you'll never see it, and done. I said, okay. This is when I was thinking, well, this guy's on drugs. And possibly, but I would never say that. I would never accuse anybody of that. The poor guy, he's I think he's, how would you say it, critically thinking challenged. Okay, let's put it that way. Critical thinking challenged. All right. Now you can see he's got the same ocean in motion going on here, especially in the front door. And I'll tell you that little story because that gets really dicey. But I just wanted you to notice that not only all the pavers are each and every way, which they shouldn't be, that's what you sand for. Evidently he has the concept in his mind but not able to carry it out. A good example of that is here. We're looking at 1/2-inch gaps running up to that. And of course he said, that's no problem, Joseph. Just keep the sand in there and then you get yourself some Thompson's water seal and spray it on it, and that's going to lock all the sand in place. Yeah, okay. Look at this. You see what I'm saying? This is finished work. Same with this. What's there? Sand. Sand. That was all supposed to be cut in and covered. And it could have been done. Now these, in all fairness, were lifted up prior to this because I had the 2 other contractors here. We had to look down and see what's underneath. But suffice it to say, these stones here that were supposedly locking in with the same mortar, it's just, he did just as poor a job here. Of course he leaves the cigarette butts here too. That's his professional. Yep. See? Okay. So he did all that. All right. So now we know. And then of course here, this I pulled most of it. You can see where the sand is in here, right? Through here, all right? Okay. Now anybody in their right mind who says that sand is locking in these has got to be delusional, lives in a different world, or a pathological liar, which I think he is, and well, I know he is, and meaning that he spins his own tale of the events and actually believes them. And I'm serious. I mean, he would do well in Hollywood. I think he would do very, very well. He could play those parts convincingly so, because he can lead himself into it. But now you can actually see the gentle sways. Now we got this little cup. Why is that little cup there? Well, you see the original sidewalk here? It went up to the door and there was like a little V. It went over there, and of course that's all new. But then he takes, what he does is like a madman, and he was for an hour and a half, 16-pound sludge, busted that all out. Of course, if you look on my door, you see all those little ding marks. Well, I gotta get a new door. At any rate, that's every now and then it would hit it, but don't worry, it's just a little white paint will take care of that according to Beck. Okay, so there it is. And both of the contractors, when they looked at that, they said, well, why did you do that? And I said, well, I have no clue. Why? What would you have done? He said, well, that was a simple problem. I said, really? You know, I don't do this all the time. He said, you know, it was flat before. Now we know we got to go up probably an inch and a half the most, right? Which would obviously put it up. You can't open the door. He said, so how do you solve that? He said, it's simple. You take the threshold out. See these 6 little screws? You got one here, one there, one down there on the frame. That takes the door out. See this cross member? That comes out. You've got 2 inches, 2.5 inches there, 3 1/4 inches there. We simply move that up after. Okay, move that up. Take the door out first, right? Obviously, you go ahead. Of course, we're going to have to rip everything you see. Everything's coming out. Then, what you would have done while you poured it straight across, just like they said, would have been about 1.5 inches high here. Okay, now you've got this beautifully flat surface to work with. Everything is nice and flat. Okay, all follow me? Good. Because this is seeing what not to do will guide you to do what you should do. Okay, so now that you've done that, if you have the same kind of sunroof as me, and then now you've got a step up. Okay, so you put your threshold in, you move your door up. It's simple. You're in the sunroom, you step out, you step up. Of course, you've got a gradual pitch. Now this is all laid out with skeet boards and everything, so when you do it, you skeet it out, and it's flat, it's tilted this way, just slightly. You're only looking at a 1/2 inch run out over 12 feet for these kinds of things, because water, that's all it takes, is 1/2 degree. 1/2 degree, water will run. If it's not flat, it will run. You don't have to have it run, just a little bit, and it all runs off in this direction. And of course, the sidewalk that he put in here, the match, notice, match, missing the lines, isn't it? Well, that was because the madman worked at 10 o'clock at night that night, and that's the night I asked him to leave. He came back the next day, which I had to have the sheriff escort him off the property because he just wouldn't take no for an answer. I wanted him to give me, out of the $4,000, $2,500 back. Of course, he has no money. He shows up with a truck that's old, which is okay, but he has no credit card, empty. Each time I had to give him extra money because he had no money to get home. Should have really known from the beginning, okay? Remember I mentioned $800 for that concrete? After it was done, he said I owed him another $250 because the concrete was more expensive. Well, I called the company. It was $575. So not only was he lying from the beginning, he lied at the end. Same here. Look at this. I had these extra pavers. I said, you know, for an extra $200, would you put those in? He said yes. It'd be about a 3 to 4 hour job. There's 2 men. They spent a day and a half, and this is what I got. Another ocean in motion. It's amazingly poor. Let me walk through this and show you really quick what he did. Some of his finished work. There's those little thingies that he's so fond of. All right? Of course, that's okay. You don't see that. Maybe it'll fill in with dirt after. Okay? There we go. There we go. You can see the flow. See how he broke these and all these, how expertly they're fit in. All right? Not. Okay, now look up there. We're going to go back to that because you can actually see how this goes. Maybe he was thinking this was a gutter or something. I don't know. This is where I keep my trash and my recyclables. Now, in all fairness, this was finished. Now, in all fairness, I scraped this off to show you. Okay, that was nice and screwed. You see this? These are two different. These 3 pavers and these 2 are different. Okay. When he was coming to that point, I happened to be here. Of course, these couple were down, and he was talking to his man how to solve that problem. They're scratching their heads. And I said, whoa, that's simple. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you see this here? This is the clean out. It's a 4-inch clean out to my sewer, and it's a little high. So when he put one of these on here, it lifts it up too high so it doesn't get it flush. So I said, that's easy, James, okay? And I said, this is what you do, okay? Of course, this is all off. You take and put chalk, like blue chalk or red chalk, any kind of chalk. Anything other than red, white. Put it all over the top. And you pretend this is the one you're going to use there. You take this, you put it there, you wipe it, you move it around a little bit, you flip it back over. Once it's flipped over, you'll see your little mark of chalk, right? Then you take your scribe, you make your it's a 4-inch hole, so you make it about 4 1/4, 4.5 inches. Then you take a file, you'll chip, all around the edges. Once you do that, because if you don't do all around the edges, it'll splinter the stone. But as long as you've got a continuous circle going around, then you make a couple of cross hatches and carefully chip it out until you chip out enough relief, chip enough indentation. So now, when you flip the stone back over, it goes over the spot where you intended it, and then you take a little out of it, a little at a time. That's what I said. You don't go all the way down where you think. Maybe you go a 1/4 inch, and if it's still too high, you take a little bit more, and you gradually fit it in place, and voila, you got a stone that fits under there. And if I ever need to, which is very seldom, I can go in there and do it. Well, came back that afternoon, and this is what I got. That was what I looked at. I said, what the hell is this? And he said, well, I came up with a better idea. I said, better idea? He said, yeah, this way you can get at it easier. I said, well, look at it. And he said, that's fine. There you go. That's fine. Same with this. Look at that. Cute. And then of course there's no. Last but not least, here, look at these things here. Now last but not least is my shed. I said I have 2 lawnmowers. There's one of them back there. And I have one in here. All right? And when they come out, you open the door, and it was all gravel, obviously. You can see, I'll step back here. You can see where it was just gravel, right? And I said, so let's put a little lip. Now the lip here, look at it. It looks good. It's almost semi-professional. Probably professional even, right? Well, that's because James V. Beck had nothing to do with the finish of this. So let me explain. His guy Chris was doing this. And he comes back and he says to me, Joseph, we got this done. So I come out and I look at this. And incidentally, I had my motorhome here. I was having it polished. Guy's name is Michael. He's a very handy guy, and he's over here looking at me. And he looks down at this and says, doesn't look right to me either. I said, doesn't that look a little high to you? So this was wet now. It wasn't totally dry. So I attempted to open the door. Got it about that far, and it stuck. This slab was too high. So Michael went and got a flat shovel. And as you can see how it's cut down over there. Let's get right down here. See how it's down there? Well, originally it was right up to the edge here. You can see he had it up to the edge. So we had a shovel, he shoveled out a wheelbarrow and a half, which is about 2, maybe a little bit more bags of that Quickcrete that we had filled it with. And after he cut it, he tapered it back, and then he wetted it down really good. He got his trowel, spent an hour and a half going over and over it to get that smooth. And then when it was almost done, he took a wet sponge and he went up here to this edge and he feathered it in. Both of the contractors, when they got to this, they went like, "Wow, actually that's not bad. Actually it looks pretty good." They said, "Well, actually that looks like it's supposed to be." And I said, "Well, that's because James V. Beck and his crew had nothing to do with it." And I told them originally what happened and how Michael, my guy, polishing my motor home, was able to do what a guy with 38 years experience could not do. So there you have it. There it is. The proof's in the pudding. What can I say? If you ever need to get anything done, that is any kind of